Hi there. Let's talk about course design. But before, let me ask you, how do you usually design and plan a course? Probably you first identify topic or chunk of content that needs to be covered. Then you plan a sequence of lessons to teach that content. And finally, you create an assessment to measure the learning that should have taken place in those lessons. If you notice in this approach, the assessment is created after the whole lessons are planned. Sometimes teachers and course instructors don't think about the assessment until after they've already taught most of the lessons. It's like an afterthought, just a way to check if the students were paying attention to what they were taught. Course instructors or teacher may not plan the assessment from the beginning, but rather add it in later. And of course, you may ask, what's wrong with it? Well, when the course is planned in this way, it's more likely to include content, information, and activities that have a questionable value. Let's take Greek mythology as an example. If our goal is to teach about Greek mythology, we might end up including content and activities that don't really add much value to the learning experience. We could just throw in random things related to Greek myths, like coloring pages of mythical creatures, a word search with the names of gods and goddesses, or maybe even a quiz about a random myth. But the problem is, these activities may not help students truly understand the important themes and lessons from Greek mythology. It could become more of a surface level exploration instead of a deeper and meaningful learning journey. The traditional forward design approach has two problems. First, learning doesn't stick with us for long, and we struggle to apply it in real life. You know how sometimes we forget what we've learned at school? So basically, this approach is one of the reasons behind that. The second issue is that it makes learning boring and uninteresting. When we are asked to do things that seem pointless and don't connect to anything meaningful, it is challenging to stay engaged. Even if some students might do it to get good grades, in fact, they are not learning anything valuable. You can ask them, and they will probably agree with this statement. So by planning and teaching in a more organized and purposeful way, we can avoid these problems and make the learning experience more enjoyable and meaningful for everyone involved. And if you ask, how can we do that? I would answer by adopting backwards course design. So what is it? Backwards design is an approach to planning and teaching courses that puts the most important learning goals front and center. Instead of throwing a bunch of random stuff at students, we start by identifying and figuring out what exactly we want them to learn and to be able to do by the end of the course. So this way we work backwards, creating activities and the tests that will help them to achieve those goals. The key here is to focus on enduring understanding or big ideas that we really want students to take away and remember in the long run. We want the learning experience to be meaningful and engaging for them, so it's not just about covering a lot of content. With backwards design, we take a step-by-step approach. First, we decide on learning outcomes, the things that we want students to know or be able to do by the end of the course. Then we decide on assessments like tests or projects to see if they've really mastered those outcomes. Next, we plan fun and effective learning activities that will help them reach those goals. These activities are aligned with the assessment, so they all work together like a puzzle. To make it even better, we carefully choose the right materials and resources to support their learning journey. This includes textbooks, videos, and other helpful stuff. When it's time to teach the course, we guide students through these well thought out activities and use the selected materials. Along the way, we provide feedback to help them improve their understanding and skills. To create a clear objectives and a better assessment, we can refer to Bloom's taxonomy. It breaks down learning into different levels. like remembering facts, understanding concepts, applying knowledge, analyzing information, evaluating ideas, and creating new things. By using specific words associated with these levels, we can make sure that students are really learning and growing. Let's take a course on Greek mythology as an example of how backwards design approach works. Step 1. Identify the desired learning outcomes. In this step, we define what we want our students to know, understand, and able to do after completing the course on Greek mythology. Our learning outcomes could include students will be able to identify and describe major Greek gods, goddesses, and mythical creatures. They will be able to analyze the cultural and historical significance of Greek myth in ancient Greek society and creatively retell or reinterpret a Greek myth to demonstrate their understanding of the themes and lessons. Step 2, we develop assessments. Now we have our learning outcomes. We create assessments to measure how well students are achieving those objectives. Our assessments may include a quiz or exam with questions about the key gods, goddesses, and mythical creatures, a research project where students explored the influence of Greek myths on art, literature, and philosophy in ancient Greece, a creative assignment where students rewrite a myth in a modern setting or create artwork inspired by myth themes. Now, since we have our learning outcomes and learning assessments, we design engaging learning activities to help students to delve into Greek mythology. So our activities could include reading and analyzing classic Greek myths and understanding their narratives and themes, watching animated or live action adaptation of myths to explore different interpretations, engaging in class discussions and debates to examine the moral and ethical dilemmas presented in the myth. Step 4, determine instructional materials and resources. To support our learning activities, we have to select relevant resources and materials. This could include a comprehensive book on Greek mythology with engaging narratives and explanations, multimedia resources like videos or podcasts that showcase the enduring appeal of Greek myth, and access to online database with well-researched articles about the cultural context of Greek myth. Step 5, implementing the course. Now it's time to teach students about the Greek mythology. Just don't forget to give feedback or help students navigate if they're encountering some difficulties or challenges in understanding certain concepts, for example. And the last step, assessing students' learning. In this stage, we just use the assessment that we created earlier. After assessing students' learning, please don't forget to provide constructive feedback. This will help them deepen their understanding in a particular topic. In our case, it will be Greek mythology. This approach ensures the courses are well planned and that the focus is on what students will actually learn, not just what we want to cover. And also it makes learning experience purposeful, engaging, and valuable for everyone who is involved. So I hope this video was useful and informative. If so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.